on the future Catholic Church, the Pope doesn't really say too much, and Peter Zabel, the interviewer, doesn't press him on it. But he does say that with the coming of modernity, there is a decline in folk religion, folk religion or folk churches, and that what this leads to is a more personal decision for or against Christ taken by individuals, not just because they're part of a tribe, a clan, a family, or a nation, but because they are, interiorly convinced. So he says that's going to necessarily reduce the number of people who are going to call themselves Christians or are going to live the Christian faith. Therefore, in this new kind of mentality, modern mentality, what we have to do is, yes, affirm that you shouldn't be a Christian unless you're really committed to it, but we have to expand the number of those who know Christ, accept Christ, and then try and live according to Christ's precepts. So he doesn't say how many that should be, but he does speak at the very end of the book about certain oases of prayer, of which the liturgy forms a part. And he talks about a Noah's Ark. So in a certain sense, if you read that thing, he's very nuanced, but there is a place for a ghetto mentality. Not ghetto in the sense of closing oneself off from the world, but ghetto in the sense of living life of faith more intensely to give oneself the strength and the capacities to go into the world. Well, to the question of whether we have great theologians as we did in the mid-20th century, and if not, why not, I would say, well, no, we don't. And I don't know why that is, but I can speculate a bit. First, I think it was a golden age, and there are golden ages. This was a time of great theological ferment, a time of people of tremendous genius who give themselves to that field of study. And in a certain sense, we don't need giants like that all the time. We have not assimilated Newman yet, We've not assimilated Chesterton yet, who I think is a great theologian in his own right in a certain way, or C.S. Lewis, who has theological depths which have not really been plumbed. So it's not as if we're lacking the resources to do theological reflection. We've got them there. And I think it would almost be superfluous if we had more great theologians now when we haven't exhausted the riches of the ones we have. But there's also, I think, a sociological reason. If you look at these theologians, look at Ratzinger. I mean, Ratzinger was studying Latin and Greek when he was 13 years old and working, he was in the German army as a little kid, in Munich there. I mean, especially in Europe, they had an elite kind of education for the well-educated, and it was superb. And we really have lost that tradition, especially in the United States. We believe in education for all, but part of the result of that, as Tocqueville said in his book on American democracy, is that it's leveled it down. We don't have the real, the giants, so to speak, but we have many more educated people. So I think it's a cultural thing, a loss of the kind of basic foundation you need to have real scholarly work. I mean, why don't we have a Mozart or Beethoven? I mean, Mozart was writing concerts when he was 5 or 6 years old. Well, that doesn't happen very often. Now, I do think we may see a new cycle starting with homeschooling, because precisely in the homeschooling community, we got people who are reading the classics when they're young. And this could lead to some of the great kind of contributions we've had from people like Ratzinger, Meunier, Balthasar, Congar, de Lubac, Rahner.